How's it going, YouTube? Siege Gaming here. Today I'm going to be bringing you guys a video to start off 2023 on an ML5 tier list. I'm going to go through all the ML5s all the way up to Death Dealer Ray. I'm not going to be including him, but let's get right into it, guys. I do want to mention before we start, these are mostly for PvP. I am going to mention a few for PvE, but in reality, almost all ML5s really strive in PvP and epicseven, so that's just how it is. But let's get right into it, guys. So the first section is the must-have section. This section is units that are so important to metas and are extremely useful everywhere in the game. These four are in order, in my own opinion, starting with Conquer Lilius. To this day, she stands to be one of the best supports in the whole game. She's a great PvP unit, and she's usable in places like Holo Trials for those She's comps or other various parts of the game. As a new player, I know I had her, and it was so beneficial for me just because of her pure power. The skill 3 vigor buff is just so good, and just the team-wide buffs, it's just so nice. So definitely, she's top tier. Next up, we got Spec Tenny. This unit is someone that I really recommend picking from your selector at the beginning of the game. She just helps everywhere in Abyss, huge damage dealer. Her passive, where she's always stealth, it's so nice to have. So even in late game, she is nuts. She does so much damage. Next up, Meat-Eater Kyric. He is another insane support unit. He offers more utility than almost anyone, and in PvP, he is a must-have for sure. RTA, you need him. I ban him 99% of the time because I find him so annoying. But when he's built correctly, he can really torment everyone you're playing against. Last but not least, in the must-have section is Apoc Ravi. This one's a contender for going up a few spots, but she is just a hyper carry. She's so fun to build. She does so much damage. Her revive is busted. Her damage is busted. Everything about her is just so good. So these top four are truthfully all on the same level. I think Conquer Lilius is a little bit ahead of everyone, but in their own respective ways, they're so powerful. And then moving on to our next section, we got Super Strong. These units, they're competing for the must-have, but they're not quite there yet. Starting with Bellion, she is definitely one of my favorite units in the whole entire game. She's so annoying to fight. She has so much damage, and I build mine on injury, and it tears them apart, and it's so nice. Plus, she's just so tanky, and her kit works so well. If I was building this just for me, she would be in the must pull section because her looks are just top tier. Moving on, we got Bryceria. With these new buffs, she is insane. She offers a lot of utility. She's being picked quite a bit more often, and she got just what she needed to be super strong. Her damage is now viable as a cleave unit. She can be just a support, so it kind of gives us players a choice on how to build her, which is super nice. Next, Remnant Violet. With the new buffs, he is super strong. He does quite a lot of damage, but he does rely on RNG quite a bit, which kind of sucks, but if you're a lucky player, go ahead. But like it's an old saying, if he dodges, he's good. If he doesn't, he's garbage. So he has a super cool design, and it's awesome watching him absolutely destroy someone. Xiao, this unit is pretty new. He is quite busted, but he's very situational. He's only good against certain meta openers, like Ran and everything like that, but he offers a crazy amount of utility for newer players. The fact that you only need him at like 260 speed is so nice. And including myself, I'm quite a slow player. It is so nice to have that unit to where it's not insanely slow, but it's nice to have someone where I can always rely on outspeeding to get that silence on an opener, maybe like Conquer Lilius or Ran, like I said earlier. But next up, we got Straws. This guy, absolute husbando, dude. I swear, he is good almost everywhere in the game. He's a tank buster. The main reason I did put him up so high is because he is definitely one of the most powerful PvE units ever. He allows for one-shot comps on almost everything. It's so nice to have, especially later game when you're trying to maximize those hunt events and everything, having a one-shot team, you can use him almost on the same build everywhere. It is so nice. And he just makes the game more fun in my opinion. The Planet Killer's just a cool ass name, so I would definitely recommend picking him up if you can. And he's good against units like Ran and any counterattack unit, just, or not Ran, Rem, any counterattack unit, just because of his new buff that he got. Next up, we got Commander Pavel in the Great section, and these units are pretty strong. You know, they have obviously very good uses. They're great picks if you have all the ones above, but other than that, Commander Pavel synergizes really good with a lot of units. He does an extreme amount of damage and makes cleaving pretty easy for newer players, and it is nice. He is good again in late game for Arena, Guild Wars, but you got to make sure you pick him into nothing that absolutely destroys him because he's pretty squishy. Next up, we got AD Shadow, or AD Marrow, whatever you want to call her. She's a super unique unit that disallows enemy passives. It's called Seal, and she doesn't allow it, so she makes people like Arbiter Villager useless, and it is kind of nice to have sometimes against those RBs in Guild War because they can mess you up. But she's a good counter pick, and putting her on counter sets can be super annoying for your opponents because she does a odd amount of damage. It's pretty nice when you're playing with her, but not against her. Next up, we have DJB. This is a super strong unit simply because of inverting barriers. Her and Pierre are quite similar, but back a while ago, there was a lot of shield metas, and again, there's the protection set now, so he has gotten a little bit of use. We don't see it too much, but DJB just completely counters barriers. So Fallen Cecilia, which is a great unit, especially for those newer players. If you have Fallen Cecilia and you get picked or you get countered by a DJB, you're done for, and it's nice to have. So yeah, moving on to D-Lil a bit. She is good against a lot of openers that are meta, such as people like Ran or C. Lilius. She obviously does a lot of damage, which is nice. She's good at cutting units with her CR boost, and when newer players use her, it allows them to get into PvP a little bit more early on, which is quite nice. So in general, she's a pretty great unit. Next up, we got Fallen Cecilia. This unit is super easy to build, and she offers some of the best protection for newer players. Like I said earlier, it's so nice to have in Guild War. You know, if you just run her with RB in Guild Wars, for example, it works so good even as a defense. So it's super nice to have. Her skill null on her skill 3 is super nice. She does quite a bit of damage. She's a good bruiser, and she's relatively easy to build, so she's definitely a great pick. Opsig, she again is just like Desert Drill Bazaar. She is so good simply because of how strong the shield meta is, or was. She offers great one-shot potential either way, but she can be very hard to build. She's pretty stat hungry, so again, it depends on how good your gear is. Next up, we got Lionheart Sirmia. She is such a cool unit. She gives like I said, I did a rapid review on her explaining how to build her, and she gives very weird pieces of gear at home, and that's always what I appreciate about her. She is super good. I would consider her a top tier waifu, by the way, but in the current meta, she gets whooped by a lot of people. In my opinion, counter/dual attacks have slightly fallen off, other than like C. Lilius, so she isn't quite as good as she used to be, but she is still pretty good in Guild War and everything like that. Sage Ball, similar to D-Lily, he is very good against meta openers for the same reasons that D-Lilibet is. You know, it's CR cut. That's pretty much it. He's just a strong unit. He does quite a bit of damage too. Faithless Lidica, last in this tier, she is really good against people that rely heavily on CDs, but she does have a really low base speed, and that's kind of what puts her at the bottom of this list, almost in the okay. She can get outsped by everyone. It's pretty annoying. I mean, she does do a good amount of damage, but she also offers a way to go more aggro or more tanky. So it's good to have a unique set, just like Bryceria. You can interchange her in between comps, which is super nice. Moving on to the OK section, we're going to start off with RB, or Arbiter Vildred. This is another Moonlight Blessing unit that used to be really good for dog walking, but nowadays kind of lost his touch just because of the whole Pingham system. But other than that, he is a great unit for cleaving, speed running arena or guild wars. I personally use him all the time. He has such a cool design. I love his skin. So his Bondo rating, he's top tier, but useful ratingness, he starts to fall down a little bit. Solitaria can be a great counter pick, but again, she relies quite heavily on RNG. She's kind of like a Remnant Violet, unbuffable from, for example, Seaside Blown. It just completely destroys her just because all the buff she gives, and it hurts her. She's super easily counterable, but she's quite a good pick. Astromancer Lena, she's one of the newer units, but after the new buff, she's actually quite good. I remember she was one of the lowest rating, but now she is very good against counter units such as like Bellion, or for example, which is more meta, or maybe Rem. And other than that, she is okay. If it wasn't for counters, she wouldn't be as good as she is. But next up, we got Sylvan Sage Vivian. Basically, she has good damage, good healing, and that's about it. And she also has a waifu, so that's a plus. And then LQC, she's a big single target nuker. She did just get a new skin, so that always is a plus, but she does require super good units, like more than meta units like Conquer Lilius or Mediator Coward to team up with her in order to make her useful, because other than her nuke, she doesn't have too much utility, and it can be kind of hard to utilize her or get the most out of her. Next up, Spirit Eye Celine. Basically just a better ML Ken. She can be a good pick against players that don't know how to counter pick, because she's quite simple to understand and counter. She does do a lot of damage, which is quite nice, and the immortality can get super annoying in certain comps, especially if you pick her in the right direction. So she's a pretty solid pick, and she has probably one of the coolest designs in the game. Next up in this section, basically what this is they're very niche units, and they're good in a few ways, but in general they can be outperformed by units above them. Most of these units just have better picks, so some are RGB, but I'll mention MLs if they do come up. But starting off with Ruel, she is another connection unit. She's good for slow players and she has good utility, but most of the meta supports are just simply better. Meteor Cowrick offers more utility. Ruel's nice for those revives and everything, but she could just get outperformed by more fast cleaving comps. So Maid Chloe is good for players that hate having fast masters. She's so annoying. That 3-turn revive cooldown is just so annoying to deal with, and she is good for more of those tank players that want to play slow and just bruise them down. So if that's you, totally go right ahead. She's a great pick for that. But if you're cleaving, she's not going to be the best pick for you. Last Rider Crow, this golden boy fell off a lot, but he still has some uses. He is super situational. He just takes a long time to ramp up and gets countered by like injury and everything in the meta that we see. So he's harder to pick nowadays than he used to be, but he still has some good situational picks. Blood Moon Haste, again, there are better non-revive picks than Blood Moon Haste, such as Bryceria or anyone like that. He does a little bit more damage than some, but he's just, other than that, he's kind of useless. He does have a cool design, so that's what's going for him. Pirate Captain Flan, she's a super cool unit simply because of her bombs. I've always liked that, but she does need Summertime Isaria's Deep Sea Artifact, I believe it's called, or she is garbage. Her new buff allowed her to be a little bit better than she was. She is super hard to pick, requires pretty high gear requirements, but she definitely can be used 100% that PvP unit. She does nothing else but that. Moving on to Closer Charles and Top Model Luluka, I kind of put these in the same bunch. They're basically the same thing, just different genders. They both have a CR push, they both have attack buffs. in general, they're really close. You know, they offer great damage. Top Monolithica offers extinction and, you know, a big nuke from basically both of them. They're okay for slower play styles. You know, they're good mid aggro cleaves and everything like that, so those can be some good choices for you. But in general, they're better damage dealing options, I would say. You know, people like Straws if you're really going for that heavy cleave, or maybe Faithless Letica, for example. Now moving on to the next and final tier, I've labeled it as 3 stars or better because there's a lot of 3 stars that are much better than these people. These guys are just looking real rough in this current meta. They all need buffs or maybe even reworks to be any sort of useful. And starting off with Specimen says he doesn't do enough damage. Okay, I kind of correct myself. He does enough damage, but he is so hard to line up. He relies so heavily on that stun. Building him is just a pain, and it's almost not worth it because, again, there are better damaging picks. It is cool to see him one-shot things and just delete them out of existence, but other than that, he's not the best pick. Dark Corvus is only good for cheesy builds like effect resistance. He is annoying and, you know, to fight against in Kills War defense, so that could be a place you put him, but other than that, I would not recommend building this guy. I did just pull him the other day, which I was kind of sad about, but it is what it is. Judge Kisei, she is quite literally only good for cleaving in an arena. If you pair her with some like Oxlots, it can be pretty nice if you're just trying to speedrun arena at lower ranks, but other than that, this is another ML collection unit I would not recommend picking because she just, other than damage, she does absolutely nothing. ML Ken, he has some unique builds such as the effect resist builds, but other than that, he just underperforms quite heavily. He really does need a buff. You know, everyone's been saying that for a long time, so he's another I wouldn't build him if you have the chance. Ambitious Tywin, another golden boy. He just doesn't cut the chase anymore. There's so much better options. And last but not least, actually last and least, is Silverblade Arminta. She's just so bad. She does need a rework or something, maybe a buff to her damage. She used to be a insane cleave unit, but she just got power crept out of everything, and it is sad to see. She is a pretty cool unit, but yeah, other than that, guys, if you do have any questions, or you don't, share with me how you would put this tier list. But I do a lot of build guide videos, so if you guys do want to learn how to build any of these units, go ahead and make sure to look for those videos on my channel. I'm going to be doing all the MLs first, so a lot of the ones that I don't have will be coming very, very soon. But yeah, other than that, guys, thanks for watching, and make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you later. Peace.